You're watching Moms Matter, and I have a special guest with us today, Dr. Houman Hemmati, who you have seen on Fox, CNN, and around legacy media talking about what is happening in the world. He was born in Iran, came here when he was a young kid, and he has a lot to say about what's happening locally here in Los Angeles based on his experience in Iran. And we are so lucky to have you here today. Thank you for being here, Doctor.
Thank you for having me.
So we have talked a lot about what's happening in Iran today. And people don't understand that we've seen this playbook before, and now in LA with elections coming up, it could happen to us right here in our own backyard. I know that sounds crazy to people, but if I were to ask you why it's important for everybody to get out June 2nd and vote, and their life might depend on it, what would you say?
Easy. It's that LA, the city as well as the county, but LA City is the anchor of the whole county and all of Southern California, is now at an inflection point where we can either go past the point of no return and become a failed city for good, where it takes decades to recover, or we can recover immediately, move quickly toward being what we were before, a safe, prosperous, beautiful city that was like how we experienced it in the 80s and early 90s, right? And this is the time. And if we continue down the path of radicals like Karen Bass and Nithya Raman, who are not just radical, but are also absolutely incompetent and should not be anywhere remotely close to managing a budget of any size, let alone tens of billions of dollars, right? We are going to go down a path where the city is gone. And if we don't do that and bring in someone, specifically Spencer Pratt, he's the guy who's there and has the chance, we have a real opportunity to see the city turn around and start making changes that make it fiscally sound, that make it safe, that make it beautiful, make it prosperous, and a place where everyone really wants to be again.
I mean, for those of us who have lived here and been so lucky to have been raised in Los Angeles, you can't recognize Los Angeles anymore. It's a different landscape because of failed leadership, like you said. But you said something about Spencer Pratt. People might not know who he is. Can you tell us a little bit about why you're supporting him?
I've been following Spencer Pratt for quite some time. He's a former reality star, and that's how Karen Bass likes to attack him, you know, saying, oh, it's a washed-up reality star. Yes, he was a reality star at one point, but now he's a father, he's a husband. He was a Palisades resident, and his house burned down in the Palisades fire, and I think he has relatives, parents, whose house also burned down. And that was his origin story. He was never a person who's in politics. He's a very smart guy who, because of his television work, had to kind of play a silly airhead type dude, but he's actually very educated and very smart. And when all of this happened, he became angry and decided to be the one guy to really turn his anger into citizen journalism. So he started looking into the cause of the fire, looking into cover-ups, looking into where the money is going after the fire and where it's not going, namely the homeowners, the permitting process, everything. And he is single-handedly responsible for uncovering so much of what we currently know based on working sources. And he's not a journalist, remember. He's gone to DC. He's been to, to the IRS, the FBI. He's been, subpoenaing records and getting his hands on things. He has informants. And because of this, he uncovered so much of the fraud, so much of the incompetence of Bass and Gavin Newsom. And all of that is now coming out, but it's due to him. And what he realized during this process is that the city is in deep trouble. It's not just the Palisades fire. That was a symptom of the city's overall problems. And the decision that he came to was that if no one else who has a really good shot at winning and whose beliefs I share puts their hat in and decides to run, I will have to run reluctantly. And that is what happened on January 7th at the memorial or commemoration, whatever you call it, for the Palisades fire, called They Let Us Burn. He gave a speech, and that's where he announced his candidacy. And it was very clear that he is a man who has a personal stake in this. He is not just angry, but he's turning his anger, and he has already turned his anger into meaningful change and has the potential to do that for the entire city as a whole as mayor.
I mean, you talked about how someone like Nithya Raman or Karen Bass cannot balance a budget. They cannot run the county. It's impossible. And do you think Pratt has the ability to do that?
Yes, and here's why. He has a core group of people who are supporting him, who are surrounding him, and who are going to be the people going into city government and advising him once he's mayor, who will provide that. No mayor themselves alone is calling the shots on everything, right? They are the ultimate decision maker, but they're surrounded by advisors. And when you look at Bass's advisors, it is a group of absolutely incompetent people. Her latest communications director lasted like a couple of weeks or a couple of months, just left the other day. That's how that office is working. Huge turmoil, people not able to do their jobs, not even knowing what their job actually is, and we see disaster after disaster after disaster, not just with the fire department, with the police, with water and power. They're not paving the streets anymore because they ran out of cash. When this is a rich, wealthy, prosperous city, and we can't afford to pave the streets anymore.
It's crazy. I know. I've had 2 flat tires going through potholes. Yeah. I feel like I live in a third world country. I mean, it's really unbelievable. And then you have Nithya Raman, who's a part of the Democratic Socialists of America, who's kind of trying to stay away from that because she doesn't want to identify herself that way. But a lot of people don't even know what that is. They don't know what the DSA is. I know you're very well versed in all of this. Can you share a little bit, especially leaving Iran, where we saw how it was becoming radicalized, and those same false promises? What is the DSA, and why is it dangerous?
Yeah, the DSA, what is their premise? They're not Democrats. They are socialists who believe in a democratically elected government. And I want to be clear about that because people say, oh no, they're just more left-wing Democrats. No, they are democratic socialists, period. So they are primarily socialists. They are anti-capitalist. They believe in wealth redistribution. They believe that the working class, the regular people who are not the extremely rich, shouldn't really have to pay for housing, shouldn't have to pay for education, shouldn't have to pay for healthcare, shouldn't even have to pay for food, and that all of that can and should be subsidized or completely covered by taxing the very rich, who they believe are the root cause of all the problems. That summarizes the DSA, but they go beyond that. How do they want the government to provide housing? They want the government to take over housing, eminent domain, and actually steal or take housing from landlords. They want those remaining landlords to have rent freezes and even rent reductions that are government mandated. They want eviction bans. And for homelessness, they want homelessness to be completely rampant. They believe that these are unhoused neighbors, that they are in that position because of the wealthy who have controlled the housing stock, and thereby they believe encampments should be allowed to be wherever they want. And similarly, they want to abolish police and replace police with people who help you emotionally and socially, believing again that crime is really a symptom of social inequities and the wealth gap between the rich and poor, and if we solve that, we won't have crime or homelessness anymore. It's a completely backwards ideology, one that has constantly, as you know, everywhere in the world, including Iran, including in every communist country on earth, has proven to fail. Yes. But people here somehow, as is commonly happened, without understanding history, right, hear free stuff, no work, hurt the people who we hate because they're more successful than we are, and rather than trying to emulate them and become successful, let's get them to pay for all of our stuff. And that, to people who don't know history and who are a little bit desperate and upset, that sounds very appealing.
Yes.
Right? I get it, yes, but it always fails. And the problem is that when those people have the ability to ballot harvest and have an army of 80,000 members of the LA Federation of Labor who are a volunteer ballot harvesting army, when they go and harvest every homeless ballot, and there's 75,000 homeless in LA who are being registered to vote, and where these homeless NGOs receive their ballots, guess what happens? They can win any election they want. And so there's a lot of problems here.
I mean, we saw what happened in 1979. Khomeini came in with false promises. Free buses, free everything. We're going to give you democracy. And the first thing they did was make a mandatory hijab for women. Yep. We saw Mamdani come in, free everything. And then we say, hey, if you need to shovel, come and show us ID and we'll pay you $25 an hour. We need you to shovel. There's no free lunch. There's no such thing. But these false promises, now it's happening in LA. So our city council race, June 2nd, people need to vote because there are a lot of DSA members running for these city council posts. What would be the message you want to share with Angelenos right now about how they need to be aware and how they need to vote in this election?
It's pretty straightforward. For city council, look to see what are the policies of the candidate. If it's an incumbent, be very critical. Does what they say match what they voted on, right? Their votes are really the best record. It's not what they promised they will do. They're not going to change. They all claim they will. Look at their past and see how they voted. For Nithya Raman, now she's not running for council, but she's now, but for her, look at her voting record. She's wanted to abolish police. She has wanted to allow homelessness to become rampant throughout the city. She's wanted the city to control housing and tax the sale of pricey mansions, $5 million and up, in order to pay for free housing for other people, right? So look at their record. If there's anyone who is DSA affiliated, anyone who has far left policies that are not just far left in terms of, being, let's all hold hands and sing far left, but in terms of crime, homelessness, housing, taxation, don't vote for them. It's very simple. What do you have to lose at this point? Because we have voted for them so many times over and over and over again that they are responsible for what we have today, which is a city that is on the brink of failure. So if we've gone there already, what do we have to lose by voting for someone who is different? And the city council races are technically nonpartisan, but the DSA people are going to call anyone who is non-DSA MAGA, right? Because that is a bad word around here. So that's that. And then for mayor, remember, it's the top two out of a large field, but it's really three. It's Bass, Raman, and Spencer Pratt. Mm-hmm. The top two go into the general election in a runoff in November. And that's a really big one, because if it's Raman and Bass, you're going to be choosing between the devil and another devil. There's no way around it, right? They're both equally horrible. So the only way to really save the city is to have Spencer Pratt make it into the top two. Even if he's number two, it's fine, because I'm confident that once he gets on the debate stage with either of those two individuals, Bass or Raman, he's going to wipe the floor clean with them, because it's indefensible what they have done to the city, and they own it. These are all of their own policies.
I mean, it's so interesting to hear you say that, because I think so many of us who don't know anything about Spencer Pratt, other than he was this, he was on television, and you're saying that you think he's capable, more than capable, he'll put the right team together, and that we should really be voting for him. A lot of people believe that if they vote for him, they're wasting their vote, and you're saying, no, you're not wasting your vote. You've got to make sure to get out there and vote June 2nd.
Yeah, it's the exact opposite. He is the opposite of what Bass and Raman and the DSA have offered LA. He wants to have sensible police presence. He doesn't want aggressive policing. He just wants them to police like they used to. Crime is now arrestable and punished. Yes. He wants proper and responsible spending of our tax money. He's uncovered a lot of that waste and fraud throughout LA City, not just related to the Palisades fire. That's where he got started, but he's uncovered so much more citywide. Guess what? This is going to be the guy who has the capability and the will and the passion to identify it and slash those costs and all of that wasteful spending. And same thing for homelessness. He's had very good ideas with respect to that don't involve, let's just give them $1 million taxpayer-funded condo.
I mean, we're both parents. The show is for parents. And those of us who have been really worried about the direction in which Los Angeles is going, many say, we're ready to leave. But what we're saying is, no, don't leave. Just make sure you do your research and vote. Because if you don't vote, then you're giving up your right to speak up.
That is correct. And look, there are enough of us who are upset about what's going on that if we all vote, and we all vote the right way, guess what's going to happen? They'll be out of office. But on the flip side, the DSA is projecting that they're going to have an 8 out of 15 majority by 2028 in the LA City Council, which is the death of the city. And so the only way to really vaccinate against that is to A, get the proper mayor in place, and B, no longer vote for the DSA candidates who promise you all the free stuff. We've seen what their policies have done. Right? When you look at housing alone, Measure ULA, the mansion tax in LA City, what has that done? 45 to 50% reduction in high-end residential sales, right? About 25 to 30% reduction in construction of new apartments. Mm-hmm. The very same people who say there's a housing crisis caused a worse housing crisis by taxing the buildings that they want to build. So if you're a developer, you don't want to build, and on top of that, by pushing rent controls, pushing eviction bans, and threatening to take your buildings away, if you are an apartment building owner, who in their right mind wants to build in LA anymore? They're just going to go build in Orange County, or they're going to go build in Tennessee, Florida, Texas, or somewhere else where landlords are protected. Reasonably, where tenants are protected too, but where they're not going to threaten to take your building away from you. So they're destroying the place. And you know what happened with the Measure ULA? UCLA and Harvard have both studied the economics of this, and this is really fascinating. They have done the math, and because these properties aren't being sold, their Prop 13 property tax basis isn't being reset. So you can have a house that was purchased in the 1950s for like $40,000 that's paying almost no property tax. That same house, if it had been sold today, would be worth $2 million, $3 million perhaps. All of a sudden, the tax that they collect goes up like 100-fold or more. And guess what's not happening now? 50% reduction in those sales. They're not getting that property tax cost basis step up. And because of that, the city has actually lost 130% or so more money than they collected through Measure ULA. So it's actually been revenue negative. It has cost almost 2,000 housing units not to be built. And in the future, it's going to cause a lot more housing units not to be built. And it's destroyed the real estate economy in Los Angeles City, which had been a booming town.
Right.
Ridiculous.
And the truth is, most people aren't paying attention. No. And you've got to pay attention. So thank you, Dr. Hemmati, for being a full-time doctor and in the biotech industry and commenting around the news and educating us, because the truth is, if we don't take ownership of our city, the DSA will, and we're in big trouble. And I don't want to leave Los Angeles, and I know you don't want to leave Los Angeles. So thank you for being here today. Thank you for sharing. If you had one thing to share before you leave that everyone in LA should 100% be aware of today, what would it be?
It would be the city budget. Look at the budget and really just ask, where is that money going? And your jaw will drop. Can you see where they're wasting your tax dollars? How much money is going to things that don't benefit you and are probably being stolen? You're going to realize that things need to change. And it's not just, oh, let's protest. You need a vote. And I think you're going to go out and vote. People who didn't vote before, once they look to see where the money is going, are going to be passionate about getting out there and getting their friends. And I encourage everyone watching to not just go and vote, but make sure you get 5 other people who were going to sit on the fence because it's a midterm, oh, my vote doesn't count, to actually go and vote.
That's right. The power is in the vote. Share this interview with 5 people, like Dr. Hemmati said. Make sure you get out and vote before June 2nd. Your life depends on it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being here today. And we'll see everybody next time on Moms Matter.